Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you. Because, well, sex matters. We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Celine Remy. All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast, and this is episode 50. We turned 50 years old. 50 episodes old. This one is titled, Why Straight Men Should Take It Up the Ass with Dave Booda. So we're going to be doing anal in this episode. I hope everybody has done their enema.
Yeah, and make sure that wherever you are while listening, maybe you can be in a private space because it's definitely going to be steamy.
Oh, yes. You know, one of the reasons, well, there's two reasons really why we wanted to do this episode. One is because our guest wrote an amazing article on it that we found very funny and we thought it would be a great episode. But two, we also have another episode called A Beginner's Guide to Couples Prostate Massage. And believe it or not, out of all the episodes we've released thus far, it's actually our number one episode. We have more downloads of that than any other episode, which really surprised me. So we thought it would be great to continue on, do a little follow-up on that subject, because there's obviously people want to know about this stuff.
There's a whole group of people that want to know about that stuff.
That's right.
So for all of you listening here, if you're wondering who that voice is, this is the famous Dave Booda. He's a writer, musician, and social entrepreneur. He started the Better Brother Foundation. He is the co-founder of Intimacy Fest and writes weekly essays for Buddhism.com, a popular blog about relationships, creativity, and self-expression. He also moonlights as his alter ego, Buddhananda, a spiritually satirical kirtan singer who travels the world performing high vibrational music for enlightened audiences. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dave.
Yeah. Did you have a guest for the beginner prostate episode, or was that just you two talking? Or?
That was just us.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's a great topic. And I'm also not an expert in that, for sure. In a way, the only thing that but the main thing that I think I bring that helps people when I talk about that is that I'm a pretty normal guy.
And that's why you're here, Dave.
Well, it's like because people see, if I was a gay man with who was like flamboyantly feminine or something, straight men would, and I said, hey guys, taking it up the ass is great, and here's why, blah blah blah. I think straight men would look at that and be like, yeah, but that's great for him. That's not great for me. But I'm a normal dude. I was in the Navy. I've just whatever, and so. I think that's really powerful for guys because I want a role model that you don't have to be weird to explore your sexuality or understand the nuances of patriarchy and how that's not great for everybody and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. In fact, we did an episode called Your Neighbors Are Kinkier Than You Think. And that was the same goal there, was to bring just a regular person and someone that could be your just total next door neighbor and show just how fucking kinky her sex life was. To give people permission so that they realize. So before we go too far, we wanted to take at least a minute to talk about what we mean by take it in the ass, because that could actually mean more than one thing, because there are different types of anal play. And so there's probably some straight guys who are listening going, I ain't taking no dick in the ass. There's somebody is thinking that as they're listening to this, right? So we wanted to talk about how there are many different ways you could potentially take it in the ass.
Yeah, so of course there is anal fingering. So it's definitely less threatening than a big giant cock. A little finger up the ass, which can feel really good. You may have heard of anilingus or tossing the salad, of course.
Or rim job. That's another one.
Granted, you don't really go in, unless you're really, really kinky and adventurous. So that's more licking around the anus or maybe the entrance of it. Pegging is another one. So it's a woman who is going to put on a strap-on and fuck a guy in the ass. So you can choose the size of it, of course. Go smaller, bigger, different colors for any fantasies that you want to fulfill. And then, of course, anal play also includes prostate massage, which can be done manually or with special massagers as well. And then there's also all the realms of toys when it comes to anal beads and, dildos of any shapes.
So you see, there are many options.
There are many options.
Yes.
Yes.
Now I'm like, which one did you do, Dave?
I've done a few of those. You know, yeah, I also I love this. There's a guy named Charlie Glickman who's a friend of mine, and I recommend his book a lot to people who want to go deeper into this. I'm going to make a lot of puns tonight, so I just want you to know.
So they're all intended.
They're all intended. But yeah, I know for me, I'm actually more excited by the exploration and the self-awareness and the other things that come with exploring your body in that way than I am the pleasure in it. The pleasure is great. Like I personally, when I was with Paula in a long-term relationship, like we would do that a little more. Now that I'm single and sleeping with lots of people, but not like super consistently, I don't play with my prostate as much, you know, and it's not, so it's more just like, I really like, here's a good example. And this was in the article, but you know, I feel like what probably the biggest thing that has helped me is it's made me a better lover because straight men and some gay men, because not every gay man does anal sex. There's like actually a percentage of gay men who just, you know, don't want to do that, and that's fine. But you know, for me, it's like understanding what it's like to be penetrated is a whole different experience than being a penetrator. And so working with that helped me understand people's needs around what they need before penetration happens in a way that wasn't just theoretical. I'm not just like looking at my watch, be like, okay, yeah. Well, just let me know when you're ready. Like I kind of get that there's, you know, and then I also got that the same movement, the same thing could be painful or it could feel great or anything in between. Like, and that is not an experience. No man, at least from what I understand, or maybe that doesn't have like actual problems that need to see a doctor about, has ever penetrated something with his penis and been like, actually that hurt. That's not, it's just either like feels great or like meh, you know? And it's funny because, I saw this on a fridge. It was a little fridge magnet once, and it said, "Sex is like pizza, even when it's not so great, it's great," or something like that. Right. And I was like, "That's a man bought that. Like he wrote that. Obviously, like that's classic, you know." And so to get that there is this other world, I just feel like it's made me such a better lover, and that's something I really care about. I love my own pleasure too, but that's great.
So this is a great segue because the next thing that we wanted to talk about was, you know, okay, so now people understand what are the different ways that they could potentially have anal play or anal sex, but some people are probably thinking, well, why would I want to do that? So in your article, you gave 5 reasons. You just covered one of them, which is it makes you a better lover because it taught you what the other person that you're normally penetrating is experiencing. And so then you learn, oh, okay, they need this or they need that. And it made you more receptive to what the other half of the sexual encounter may be feeling.
Hey, so I'm curious now, Kevin, how about you? What did that teach you? You're on the spotlight. How was it the first time you got some anal play for you?
It was great. It was fun. I've experimented different ways over the years with it. It's not my go-to thing. Like it's a kind of like every once in a while might be fun.
We do our monthly maintenance for your prostate.
Well, so you do prostate massage, which is but that's more when you do that. It's usually there's pleasure involved. Not to say that it's not pleasurable, but the goal of it isn't specifically pleasure. Right. So it's slightly different than like, okay, we're going to have sex now. And that's like, oh, let's do some sort of anal play where the goal is very specifically pleasure. Yeah. But I think it's great.
I mean, I did start the article with some stats, some really staggering stats on prostate cancer. You know, there's a million reasons to do this. I mean, not, you know, but this was really an experience that I had with my dad where it felt like every year he would tell me about a friend of his that was getting prostate cancer. And my dad is in his late 60s. Probably you have parents the same age about. And it, like, even without looking up stats, that's some anecdotal evidence to be like, like older men are getting prostate cancer. And then you hear about, okay, because, you know, doctors are screening for it and it's a serious thing. And it's, you know, certainly curable. Most people that get prostate cancer are not dying from it. But that's something you'd like to avoid, you know, cancer.
Absolutely.
And it's, you know, it's a bit it's a bit holistic, and there hasn't been a lot of medical tests. So this is not this is not me giving out medical advice or saying anything that I would back up with science. But in my experience, that. Like when the first time I did that, I felt something. I felt a release. I felt something shift, and I just gotta feel like And again, I'm not super wooey. We hold emotions in certain parts of our bodies. Whatever, you don't have to believe that. I don't care. But it's like giving love to that part of your body cannot be a bad thing.
So, and this is, Celine, this is a place where you're actually more of an expert because you've studied this quite a bit, and it is something that you do with clients. And so you could speak much better to the actual benefits as far as, prostate cancer and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to second Dave on that there's no super backed up science about it. However, at this point, I have given over 1,000 prostate massages. So I've seen it all, and I've worked with a lot of people that experienced prostatitis, pain, and then just by doing a regular massage, they were able to get off their pain medication, where it helped with the swelling, where it reduced it. So we definitely see benefits. The other thing too, exactly like what Dave was mentioning, is really that. So what's interesting is I'm a woman and I'm doing this on a man, and so I'm becoming the penetrator, and the man receiving is the one who gets to experience that other side, and it's definitely a really wonderful dynamic that can happen, and it's very healing. It's healing for the woman to be able to be in that burst power. I'm putting air quotes for that position, but
the responsibility of that is
also
beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. And then also it's healing for the guy who gets to open up and receive. And I think in order to heal between the masculine and feminine, the woman needs to be very honoring of the man, because she knows what it's like to be penetrated without being asked or going too fast. So she can teach the guy by how she's doing this or approaching anal play. So yeah.
So our sort of number one of 5 reasons is it makes you a better lover. And so what you're saying is it doesn't just make the man a better lover because he's learning how to receive. It's actually making the woman a better lover also because she's learning how to give and the responsibility that comes.
Yeah, and whether she's using fingers or a dildo, it's not really anything.
The first time I used a strap on, I had so much more compassion for guys. Man, was it hard to find the hole. I was like, how did I do it?
It's a lot of work too. It's tiring.
Oh my God, my arms, my abs. I was like, how do they do that for hours? High five, guys.
You say to me all the time. Yeah. How do you hold yourself up for so long? Lots of push-ups, lots of plank position. So we have become a better lover, helps prevent prostate cancer. Another one on the list is it's actually known as the male G-spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I checked that out with Charlie Glickman before I wrote it. I said, it is making a real direct correlation to that. Is that accurate? And he said, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. And I noticed too that most men who would identify as being good at sex or interested in that have probably explored the variations of female orgasm that we've identified. And I don't even, this kind of gets nerdy and weird, but people will say, okay, there's a clitoral orgasm, there's a G-spot orgasm. Some people say there's a cervical orgasm. Some people say there's a million different kinds of orgasms and whatever. But the point is men understand that women could have a G-spot orgasm versus a clitoral orgasm or both, and that there's differences. Mm-hmm. And men we're all obsessed about that. We're like, I gave my girlfriend a squirting G-spot orgasm. Yay, I'm awesome. We get so into that, And so I think for that guy to understand that he has the same machinery in his body, and if it would be worth it for his girlfriend or whoever to explore the G-spot orgasm for the same reasons, he would want to explore his own prostate, because it really it operates. And again, that's also really cool, because if you're a man and want to be good at giving women G-spot orgasms, air quotes, because again, I don't think these I think that goal is not always a great goal. Some guys take it and but it's you could, understanding your G-spot and understanding it from the inside, understanding how that all works, the amount, when it's such a hit or miss thing. and also understanding the similarities between the penis and the clitoris too, right? Like, and actually biologically, and I'm not going to be totally accurate here because I'm not a scientist, but biologically that is like the same tissue. It's the same mucous membrane, same different stuff that
based on the hormones
right?
present, one develops into a clitoris and one develops
right. But it's like literally the same thing, and also, and again, I may be a little outside my league here, but when trans folks are doing bottom surgeries, they use the same tissues. Like you can do that, and so and also what that opens up too is understanding that women can also operate sexually like men too. It's not just that they are okay. I need to take an hour to warm up. Like too, they also have a way of experiencing a more kind of quick and dirty sex too, which is something that maybe traditionally we just think women are a certain way and men are a certain way. And it's like, well, we're actually both really varied in ways that are kind of more exciting. And you can experience that all in yourself. You don't need, like we actually have all those experiences. And when we go through them, that's the ultimate experience, not reading about them in a book or hearing about them from people.
Totally.
Absolutely. So I think I want to address one of the biggest fears we're talking about this.
Oh, you're going to go for that one?
Yes.
I was going to save it for the number 5, but go for it.
Every time I introduce prostate massage to a man or my clients, I think the biggest concern, maybe after the hygiene or is that dirty or poop, is does that make me gay?
Oh, there's the elephant in the corner of the room.
Right,
Does it
right.
make me gay?
And it's like, no, it doesn't make you gay that you like your girlfriend to do anal stuff to you, or even, or yourself, and just liking anal just makes you somebody who likes anal.
Exactly.
Yeah, I used the analogy in the thing. I said, liking frisbee doesn't make you a dog. It's not like it's not how that works. Like yes, dogs like frisbees, and again, not all gay men like anal sex either. It's like that's something that most straight men don't understand. But that's and there's not like a button. It's like a gay button. It's like doop,
Yeah.
And here's the other thing: if for whatever reason that experience has you want to sleep with men more, then good.
Exactly.
Who
Go
the
for
fuck
the
cares?
experience.
Like, I mean, again, that's not how that works. But at the same time, like, if for whatever reason you become open to other people sexually, yeah, sure, it's just, there's culture and homophobia and shame and everything. But like, that's also kind of cool. Now you can sleep with more people you like, and you can have a more exciting sex life. Like, that's not a bad thing,
That's true. Oh, and you hit on number 5 on the list too, which is it makes sex more interesting. Gives you more options.
It really does.
And potentially more people.
As long as it's within your agreements, people, remember that.
I find that, for many years, I felt like a band with a one-hit wonder. I was doing the Ravisher guy. That was sex. It was like, all right, here we go. And then I do the Ravisher thing, and I get all sorts of credit. And yay, look at me, I'm great. And that just got really old after a while. Like, I could still do that. But what's really exciting is to actually have more dynamic, like, give and take, back and forth, all that kind of stuff. And the ability to receive penetration really adds so many flavors to that,
Totally.
So
I've had a lot of. I've actually I've converted a handful of guys that I know of, like that have emailed me and said like, oh, my wife and I do this now. It's so cool. Like, it's really fun because that article has gone viral a few times, and then also like Google picks it up because anytime anybody searches for like ass fucking, it shows up. Or something. So,
yes, in case you're looking for it, it's on Dave's site, and it's 5 awesome fucking reasons straight men should take it up the ass. So you can find it there. We'll put the link in the comments in the show notes.
Okay, so, that's some of the basics about it, the different types, why you might want to do it, some cool reasons and stuff. But what's going to make this episode really fucking awesome is probing you, Dave.
yes,
with some deep questions
good.
about your own personal experience with anal.
Yes.
All right. When was the first time you had anal play, and what type of play was that?
Well, it was a dark and stormy night.
Oh, I love the sound of that already. Give it to
Actually,
me.
the first time I played with that was with the girlfriend. This was about like 8-9 years ago, and she was playing with a double-sided dildo. and she said, "Hey, do you want to try this?" And we didn't have like the kind of sex education I had now. Like it was great and fun, but like we were kind of just like, "Hey, let's try this." And I was like, "Okay." And I remember like the experience of it, there was like a taboo-ness to it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a transgressiveness to it that ended up being a real turn on for me. But it didn't feel like a lot of pleasure in that part of my body. Like it wasn't like I didn't get that. And there was also at the time, she wasn't also stimulating my cock too, which is also a really nice way to, as you know, to balance out. And it's also, you know, so my experience now is if I'm wanting to like reach a big orgasm and do a G-spot orgasm with that, you know, by combining cock stimulation and prostate stimulation, it does this cool thing where it almost kind of like scrambles your brain a little bit, because it's a mix of pain and pleasure, but then there's like this like constant like breaking through to more pleasure and like more, and you kind of like, it's like you're breaking through to deeper parts of yourself, and those parts, sometimes there's pleasure, sometimes there's like emotions, sometimes there's sadness, sometimes like it's like you never know where you're going with that. It's really cool.
Sounds just like me.
Right? It's like it is, right? It's like,
I mean, that's the same when we're being penetrated. It's like sometimes there's anger or sadness or there's pain. You're like, why does it hurt right now when it was okay
Totally.
5 minutes ago?
Right. And that's if the only experience men have is being the penetrator, like that just seems like batshit crazy to us, because we're like, what? That's nothing like our experience. But to actually go through and experience some of that, like my top 10 orgasms have all been including, you know, prostate play for some reason. It's just because it's like this really rich, deeper experience, you know? I use the analogy in the article about it's like one is like a regular cock orgasm is like a Ferrari. It's like standing on the side of the road and like a Ferrari whizzes by, you know, at like 80 miles an hour. You're like, wow, all right, that was. Ooh. And then the other one's like a Mack truck, like comes in, it's like, and it's like, and you're like, whoa, like it's just crazy, you know? And so my first experience was double-sided dildo maybe like 8-9 years ago. And then I actually got like a 4-part series of a prostate massage from a friend of ours that does that. And so I was in a men's group at the time. And then so they sort of recommended it based on stuff we were talking about, and I was like, sure, I'll go check it out. And I did that, and that was beautiful, and she did a really nice job of like easing into it and all that. And then after that, I was with a partner for 4 years, and we would explore that, and then since then different people, and it's been great. And
So
the pegging for me, like I'm not someone who can, like I just don't have like I don't have like, you know, an experience, but like, I mean, some guys can just get like pounded by like women with dildos or men with cocks or whatever. Like that's my experience is pretty gentle compared to what most people can handle. Like I'm not like a pro in that way. In fact, our friend Reed, I've seen him at play parties. One of the things he'll say to women that are about to peg him, because he's just a nerdy, great guy like this. He goes, oh, so if you end up pegging other guys, know that I can take a lot, and don't go crazy like this on them, right? Because it can, you know, that's one of the things, one of the pitfalls is like, oh, here we go, like I can just fuck you like you fuck me, like, well, I don't know about that, you know. So yeah.
So I remember the first time that I had any anal play, which was I was having sex with my girlfriend at the time, and she just reached around and like kind of stuck her finger a little bit in my ass, and I remember she didn't ask or anything, she was just trying, and I remember going, oh, that's unexpected, but it's kind of cool. All right, I'll go with it. but in my particular case, that was probably about 18 or 19, I would say.
Okay. Nice.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
25 years.
Actually, if it was 18, a little bit longer than that. But
I tried to make you look younger, Kevin.
Thank you. Shaving a couple years off there. So the reason I was kind of saying that is because like I didn't necessarily make a conscious choice in that moment to choose, hey, let's go ahead and do that.
Sure.
So what I was curious about is with, you know, like what inspired you? Like, did you make a conscious choice? Like, hey, this is something I want to explain, or is it just something that sort of happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, initially, that was just the girlfriend's idea. She was like, let's do this. And I was like, okay. And then the other one was that men's group recommendation. I did the kind of series. I think it was hearing. Actually, I remember this. There was. I remember one. This was like around the time that the first experience happened. Like we were hanging out in like Mission Beach, and there was one guy that was just talking about how much he loved anal beads, and he just seemed like a normal dude, and he was so confident in it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to bring in a sense to people. Like that's the gift I'm trying to give them. Like he was just like, it's just awesome. Like why would I not want to do that? Fuck yeah! Like and again, it was just like I was like, huh. Well, I'm really missing out on something. Like that's the thing that I feel like really got me. It was like, huh, like I'm missing out on something, and what's in my way is fear. So that's usually a recipe for I should do it and see what it is at least. Just so maybe I could say, well, listen, I'm not missing out on ayahuasca anymore, even though it's not my jam or whatever.
Right.
So now I'm curious. So, okay, we heard about your first experiences and it was kind of more like her choice. Now you figured out that, hey, this is something I kind of enjoy and like. And then you've been having other partners. So for all our listeners and men here that are wondering, how the heck do I tell my girlfriend or my wife, my partner, like that I want to try anal? How should they go around to ask for that?
They could send them the article. I think that's kind of a fun way to do it. I mean,
print it out, leave a copy on their on their dresser.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question that I'm sure you guys have talked about many times, which is how do you talk about sex, or how do you go and talk about sex further than you've already talked with your partners, right? And
we want your point of view.
Yeah, so like, how do I do that? I mean, it's hard with people that that's just what we do. It's not like I don't know. I remember last time I had to like fight resistance with this. I like really trying to understand what's in it for them. So I think that's why if you like somebody, let's say they read that article and they like being a better lover, like understanding what's like to be penetrated. Like, hey, honey, I was reading this article the other day about prostate stuff and. This guy made this really interesting point that, like, when men get penetrated by women, they understand what it's like to be penetrated and makes them a better lover. Like, what do you think about that? Not proposing it, just like, what do you think about that? And she's like, oh, fuck yeah, that's great. Or she's like, that's super weird. I bet you'd be gay, or I don't know, whatever. But you can kind of gauge it, right? Yeah. But bring it up in terms of what she might want. I think that's like that's the great way to do it. And then see how open people are. But I think just understanding other people's values and trying to place it in terms of that is great. Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I was thinking too, as a woman, like, I think it would be hard if the guy just goes like, hey, I've always wanted to try anal and I want to do that with you. Are you game?
Just make sure if you say that to a woman, she understands that you're actually asking for anal
to receive.
and not saying that you want to give her anal.
Yeah, because then you're not going to get the same answer.
Clear communication. We actually have several episodes on the Love Life podcast about how to communicate effectively. So
I mean, I do think it's worth saying that. I mean, we know each other through a very sex positive community. It's totally normal to talk about this stuff. Like it's almost hard to imagine for us sometimes, but. The truth is, there are a lot of men out there who will bring up something like that to a woman, and she will be afraid that he will turn gay. Or she will be afraid that he actually is gay and that she didn't know. And she will get very defensive and not be a good communicator and turn into a weird person in terms... Like she'll really... Like, that's a thing, whether it's man exploring bisexuality or whatever. Like, anything that might threaten her security... would act, and again, it's the correlation between those is not what people think it is, but at the same time, like him wanting to explore sexually on some level in our lizard brains sometimes triggers that, like, well, what else does he want to explore? Yeah. Am I not enough? What blah blah blah. I mean, so it's a real thing. Like, and I think guys will meet resistance sometimes. I still think it's worth it to talk about, but like it's just good to mention that I think like sometimes sometimes partners can be hard to talk to. And,
that's true.
And
so
they have reasons.
So I like what you said, like just saying like, hey, read the article or share that and open a dialogue.
Think about this, like other people are doing it, not us. Like, oh my God, like this couple, like Kevin and Celine, They have this podcast where they talk about sex and they seem kind of weird, but they make a good point in this thing. You should listen to this episode, and just see how they react, and you can always kind of like backpedal if they're like, if she was like, if you're like, well, I would never in a million years do that. Then you could be like, cool, all right, yeah. I mean, that's all good. I just was curious, and then maybe start with something a little lighter, or I don't know. I mean, it's you do have to work with people.
And it's not the end of the world if she says no, by the way, because you can still do it yourself with a prostate massager. Right. So make sure you listen to our prostate episode, because we talk more about how to do it on yourself as well and with your partner. So there's still hope.
Yes. So we're running out of time, and we prepared way more questions than we actually have time for. But there are two more that I'd really love to squeeze in if we can. And the next one is... What is the funniest thing that has ever happened to you during anal play?
So it wasn't my play. This is really gross.
Yeah, give it to us. Come on.
This is. I was at a sex party, and our friend was receiving anal sex, a man, from some women, and this is so gross, honestly. And there was a bunch of food around. There was like chocolate in the area. You kind of know where I'm going with this, maybe. And there was just at some point, like I was eating chocolate, and there was like, it was like on the rug. And then there was like, I grabbed for something there was like a speck of something that looked like chocolate. And I realized I'd put it on my finger, and I didn't put it in my mouth, but I just I put it near my face, and I was like, "Oh, that is not chocolate. That is not chocolate." And it was our friend Reed, and I told him later, and it was funny, and we laughed about it a lot. But that was really gross. And there's also, to pair that. I mean, I think. Anal sex is not as messy as people think. That's also another thing that you probably discussed, right? It's like you don't have like a poop fat. It's not like that's. Yeah, it's not. Your poop doesn't like hang out in the entrance. It's not the way it works. It hangs out in your intestines.
And if you have normal bowel movements every day and stuff, and you have a diet with fiber, things come out, and this shouldn't be anything. So you should just listen to your body.
That question was inspired by a series that Celine and I have watched called Ask a Porn Star.
Yes.
And when they ask porn stars like what's the craziest thing that's ever, like 90% of the answers have to do with anal sex gone wrong.
Oh, really? That's
funny. Absolutely.
So I figured, there's probably, if you do it enough, there's probably one or two good stories in there somewhere, and that one was awesome. At least you didn't eat it.
At least I didn't eat it, yes.
Okay, so since we're running out of time here, the last question I want to ask is, what is your best advice for straight guys who are considering maybe wanting to explore with some sort of anal play?
Yeah, to try it yourself first. I mean, I'm such a believer in a more robust masturbation practice for men. It's something that if a guy's been paying attention to the world of sexuality, he's probably seen women do more in this way, and he's seen the benefits of that, right? He's seen women get together in sister circles, and he's seen them self-love practices, and them going, and they get, I can do this pleasure on my own, and this is great. Like, that's really common in the world of women, in our world, of course, not in who knows in the greater world, but mindful masturbation for men is still just something that no one talks about. And so, exploring your prostate is great. Any sort of deeper masturbation practice for men is great. But, you can explore when you're in the shower. I don't know, just lay down in a tub and poke around. You're not going to traumatize yourself. Really, that's the thing. When you're on your own, no one has to fucking know, and you don't have to tell anybody ever. You can just do whatever you want and know that it's not going to feel amazing at first. Probably it might, who knows, right? But explore your body. I mean, think about it. That's there are parts of your body you haven't touched. That's your fucking body. I kind of think, we should know what's going on. We should do our best to explore this vessel, And so go for that in the privacy of your shower, lock the door if you need to, whatever. And then there's also tools like you guys talked about. Definitely encourage people to, because there's a lot to say on this. And really, like, if you guys did another episode on that, like, that's great. Like, do it. There are tools that are made just for prostate play. You could go to your local adult store and say,
The
hey,
Narrows.
Narrows are great. Like, you go to your local store and say, hey, I'm looking to explore prostate play. What do you have? They'll show you some stuff.
Or order anonymously online.
Right, exactly, whatever.
If you're afraid to go to the local sex store.
Go to like the lovelab.com, like, slash like, goods or something. But yeah, like that's, you can totally do that. And understand too that like it's not just about the size of what you're putting in your butt. It's like the squishiness too. If you like something hard, even if it's small, might feel tough. Something soft, even if it's big, might be easier. And just explore it as much as you want on your own. And yeah, like that's a great way to do it. And then when you feel comfortable, bring it up to your partner. Don't go straight into like pegging with a huge dildo.
Baby steps.
They make small dildos. Know that it's like, I think also guys get caught up in like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to like, it's like the manly way to do it is like, I'm going to really get fucked and get a big dildo. And it's like, no. Your partner, if she's a woman and you've been having straight heteronormative sex for a while, like she's going to have to exercise a lot more patience than she's used to. And that's okay if she's down, but like understand that also gives you experience of what it's like to have needs and have to talk about them. And that's a beautiful experience too, because most men don't have a lot of needs around sex. Their just need is to like, let's do this soon. And that's like, and so for a man to have to say, actually, you know what, I really need, I would just, can you just hold there, don't even move for like just a minute? That would be great. Or to be like, actually the temperature is like kind of cold. Can you turn the heat up? Can you put a blanket on me? Can you hug me? Can you tell me you love me before you do this? Like all that stuff might come out. And like that, working through the resistance to whatever programming you have around that, whether it's not manly or whether blah, 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 like working through that stuff that's what I'm really interested in. Like the pleasure is great. Sure. People should do it because of that, like, it's that stuff. Like, why wouldn't, like, that's the real juice for me. It's about really like exploring yourself and going into those places that you fear to actually get the gifts.
So well said. If you want to get more into mindful masturbation and all of that, check out our online courses, powerandmastery.com, because we teach all of that. And then if you are inspired by Dave's talks and want to learn more about his work, where can people find you, Dave?
I write a lot of essays at a website called Boodaism, BOODAISM.com. And that's they can reach me there, and there's lots of topics. I write a lot about relationships and sex, but there's all sorts of different things.
So check it out. It will be in the show notes. Dave, it's been delightful. Thank you for being our guest today.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody. That's all the time we have for this week, and we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoyed this show, leave a comment and share it with your friends.
And if you want more, we have an entire digital library with the best sex tips and relationship advice at CelineRemy.com. That's CelineRemy.com. So join us in the Sex Vault to continue this adventure.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.